Welcome to Cognis Group Future in Focus Reports. My name is Jess Garrettson. Thank you for listening. Today we focus on the mounting climate crisis. With parts of Australia now uninhabitable due to raging fires, flooding subways in New York City, and scorching heat in temperature zones like Europe, the signs of climate change are hard to ignore. Some climate deniers are coming to accept the massive threats upon us even now. It is estimated that 300 million people would be displaced, 2 orders of magnitude greater than the 2 million Syrian refugees that created political chaos in the EU. Little wonder that Jeff Bezos recently contributed $10 billion to combat the problem. Even the Trump administration is getting worried and approved plans to plant 1 trillion trees. Our first topic is plant-based food, the revolution in what we eat. According to Hazel Henderson, CEO of Ethical Markets Media, in just a year or so, the range of companies selling plant-based burgers, chicken, and other meats has come out of nowhere and promises to revolutionize food. New food startups include Beyond Meat, Impossible Foods, Mosa Meat, Elf Farms, Alpha Foods, and Fora Foods. In 2019, Beyond Meat's IPO soared 163% on the first day of trading on the NASDAQ. The CEO of Tyson Foods invested $55 million in Beyond Meat, saying, "Meat is the new tobacco." Impossible Food is now valued at $2 billion, and the brand is now in 5,000 restaurants worldwide. Another restaurant chain, Potato Head in Singapore, launched their range of plant-based meat, and the CEO says his mission is to completely remove animals from the food chain by 2035. The rise of the plant food sector is matched by the rise of cool vegan, vegetarian, and environmentally aware restaurants. Sweetgreen became the first restaurant unicorn, raising $200 million in funding. Cold-pressed Joe and the Juice is planning an IPO at $1.5 billion. Kitchen Fund and the Enlightened Hospitality Investments are pumping over $100 million into early-stage scalable restaurant concepts. A 30% global shift from cattle, sheep, and goat meats to plant-based foods and beverages would halve greenhouse gas mitigation gap. Plant-based meat is superior to livestock because it is also free of antibiotics, both the huge quantities used in raising livestock and the residues consumed in meat products. Antibiotics are causing a global health crisis as they engender mutating new strains of antibiotic-resistant drugs, which already kills 700,000 people annually worldwide and could kill 10 million by 2050. Our second topic is how renewables and halophytes can affordably and soon fix climate in the ecosystem. According to Dennis Bushnell, chief scientist at NASA Langley, the basics for climate and the ecosystem are simple. Stop emitting CO2 and reduce the CO2 already emitted. Halophytes, which are salt plants, are food plants as well as having many other uses. They grow on deserts and wastelands with deep roots and thrive on saline and seawater. 44% of land is wasteland and 97% of the water is seawater. Seawater contains some 80% of the nutrients to grow plants and the trace minerals humans need, and which are largely depleted in arable land. If we switch to halophyte farming on deserts and wastelands using saline aquifers and seawaters, the following would be gained. Grow all of the food anyone wants, get back for human use the 70% of fresh water now used for farming, get biomass from petrochemical feedstock for plastics to replace petroleum, develop biofuels free of arable land, and sequester 18% of the halophyte CO2 uptake in their deep desert roots. With halophytes, we could literally solve water, food, land, energy, and climate problems, green the planet, and sequester the massive amounts of CO2 out of the atmosphere. With the huge cost reduction of renewables beyond parity, we are switching now for excellent economic reasons to renewables. Some 33% of the world's electricity is now renewable, with projections to 80% in a few decades. Storage costs and energy density improvements are enabling distributed generation, electrics for transportation and other purposes we now use fossil fuels for. Far more than the electrical generation of CO2 is being reduced, and with electrics and conservation we can cut energy requirements and CO2 emissions massively. The solution scales with favorable overall ecometrics for climate, and the ecosystem is available and well underway. India and 21 other nations use saline agriculture for food and fodder. Boeing is growing halophytes in the UAE for airplane fuel. Climate and the ecosystem are the existential issue of the age, as their effects are becoming obvious and far worse effects are in the offing. So folks are going to change, especially now that it is becoming profitable. The next topic is how carbon tax and the dividend can solve the climate crisis and boost the economy. According to William E. Halal, founder of the TechCast project, A tax on carbon has been proposed by Americans for carbon dividends and is thought to be the most cost-effective, equitable, and politically viable climate solution. They propose taxing carbon and dropping command and control regulations that would then become obsolete. This would discourage use of carbon fuels by internalizing the social costs and allowing the market forces to seek optimal solutions. The income, about $2,000 per year per citizen, would be returned to taxpayers and gain public support invested in environmental research, alternative energy, and green companies, all boosting economic growth. Some claim carbon taxes harm the economy and they cite states that have voted them down. But the above proposal, made by conservatives, remedies this problem. California, the fifth largest economy in the world, is pursuing these ideas with good success. The IMF said carbon taxes are the single most powerful and excellent tool for solving the carbon problem. Actually, the environmental mess is a great opportunity in disguise. Green business investment worldwide amounts to $1.6 trillion, and global revenues are expected to reach several $1 trillion a year. The environmental sector also produces more than 8 million jobs worldwide, more than in fossil fuels, and they are growing faster. Amory Lovins and Paul Hawken estimate that the environment produces $33 trillion annually in social and economic benefits. By viewing the environment as a foundation for a healthy planet instead of a problem, this simple but powerful change could turn a global mess into sound economic growth and more sustainable lifestyles. After decades of stalemate, this could resolve the biggest crisis today by uniting the interests of conservatives, liberals, environmentalists, and the public and corporations. In time, we can easily imagine a global carbon tax or green payments with funds returned to taxpayers and invested in green industries, spurring economic growth and innovation. Boards of advisors similar to central banks would monitor environmental conditions and set an optimal rate per ton of carbon, much like the way central banks adjust interest rates to guide the economy. The entire system would be digitized with sensors measuring the load that individuals and corporations place on the environment and sending out invoices. The last subject is, where are we headed with climate change? According to Mark Trexler from the Climatographers, as we enter the 2020s, concern over human-induced climate change is at a fever pitch. For insight into climate futures, let's first look back. Paul Gilding's The Great Disruption, written in 2010, and James Powell's 2084, An Oral History of the Great Warming, was written in 2011. They are both great examples of climate change postmortems, albeit with stunningly different perspectives. The Great Disruption envisions a public opinion turning point in 2019 and a return to 350 ppm via a successful 1-degree war plan. 2084 describes a world of rapid sea level rise, leading to catastrophic loss of Rotterdam and the abandonment of Florida. A decade on, it would appear that the odds of Powell's 2084 are growing, while those of Gilding's Great Disruption are declining. Where will we be as we enter the 2030s? We might be in the midst of rapid acceleration of climate change resulting from the triggering of already identified climate change tipping points. Scientists might have confirmed Europe will soon freeze as the thermohaline circulation slows. We might have experienced the 3 simultaneous breadbasket droughts hypothesized in Lloyd's food system shock and the accompanying economic and political upheavals. We might be suffering from a global pandemic caused by a virus releasing from melting ice. It is increasingly easy to come up with the devastating scenarios like these in the veil of Powell's 2084, and increasingly difficult to come up with scenarios in which we rapidly turn the tables on climate change. It's not because we're lacking vision of how radical technology development and deployment could quickly transition the world to a low-carbon economy. Such visions are commonplace. What's lacking is insight into overcoming human nature, something Margaret Heffernan characterizes as, in failing to address climate change, all the forces of willful ignorance come together like synchronized swimmers in a spectacular water ballet. Tackling climate change requires not just radical technological innovation and deployment, but radical changes to public policy and the collective action outcomes. If we could tear down the hundreds of silos that characterize climate action today, replacing games of climate solitaire with climate chess, it might just solve climate change. Thank you for listening today. For more information on this report or other custom research, please contact us at info@cognisgroup.com. or more directly in the U.S. at 1-303-709-3157 and outside the states at 44-1904-435-190. We provide foresight research via custom reports, as well as an online subscription featuring topics across a broad list of industries. Our work makes your life easier by providing rigorous detail across a limitless number of resources, resulting in a comprehensive snapshot to help keep you on top of your game on the trends and technologies that will impact you the most. Our timeline horizon reveals impactors not just tomorrow, but those you should be considering more than a decade from today.